Welcome to the Alex and Andrew podcast. Today we have Isaiah, known as Isage Beats, on the podcast. Isaiah is a beat maker whose skills have not been unnoticed by the likes of ESPN, Arcade by Output, Elite Mixtapes, just to name a few. Now, he doesn't just focus his brand on Fortune 500 companies, he also produces for artists and shares his knowledge with producers, serving them with his YouTube channel and his incredible program, the Beat Maker Formula. Welcome, Isaiah. Great to have you here.
I appreciate you having me, man. This is awesome. I'm glad to be here.
It's so good to have you on, man. This kind of trio goes even beyond this podcast because all three of us met online and have also been friends and admirers of each other's work for a while. So this is like a super awesome full circle moment. And just to dive deep into like your story, Isaiah, get into the beat making world and just lift the veil on some of this stuff. We are absolutely pumped to have you here. We've been talking about doing this episode, and we are just unbelievably excited. So why don't let's start this from the beginning.
Cool.
Isaiah, you started in graphic design, actually, and then you transitioned that kind of artistic side over into the music production world. We would love to hear about that journey and how it all started, and how you made that transition, how you got clarity on moving into music. So would love to hear kind of about the beginnings there and that part of the start of your journey with graphic design into music production.
Yeah, for sure. So like you said, I started in graphic design, and I've always been like into like computers and kind of like just creative arts, like even in high school. So I was like, cool, I want to do something with the creative arts, right? So I'm like, cool, I'm gonna go to school for graphic design. I went to a 2-year school, and literally like, I want to say like I did 1 year, like maybe a year or year and a half into my like 2-year degree. I was like on YouTube, stumbling on YouTube. Like, you know how it is. You're watching videos. You're like, wait, what's this? So I end up finding a video of a producer by the name Zaytoven. You guys probably know him, but he's a producer, big producer in Atlanta. And he was making beats on YouTube. Like, he was like cooking up, and I was like, yo, this looks so cool. Like, how, like, what? Like, I've never seen this side of like the production before. Like, it just never really like made sense to me. Like, wait, this is how he's doing it. Like, just falling in love with the process. Like, not knowing how he's doing it, but like just what he's actually doing, like making the beat and like throwing in his like own flavor and stuff like that. So I'm literally in class, like, looking at the computer like, yo, this might be it for me. Like, this might be like the mesh of both like that, creative side and then like the technical side of things. And it's like perfect. So from there, it was like, dude, just go after it. And I know I'm a person that just wants to go after it. I don't like wait around. I'm like, look, let's go. What do I need? Do I need a piano? Do I need like a program? Like, what do I need? So it started from there, really, honestly. So me and my brother went to like a secondhand store, like electronics store, and like he helped me buy a piano, which is actually back behind me. But and that was the beginning. So it was that, and then my laptop, and I was like, let's get it,
Man, I love that. Like, that's so inspiring. These are the stories that get us hyped. Like, I remember when I was starting out, and it's hearing a story like that. It's like going with your brother to get the $50 keyboard, and like for me, it's like finding something on Kijiji and like just getting started and diving in and jumping into music production. Man, that is so inspiring, and it's really impressive hearing that too, because like going with your brother to find like a secondhand keyboard to now, like, I mean, we've all known each other for a while, and like we knew you had clout, but like doing some background research into, just introducing you properly for this podcast, we were like, yo, Isaiah is like, he has some serious creds here. Like, he's landing beats on with the likes of some major companies. His stuff sounds awesome. He's out there sharing what he knows, and like it all started from there, man. So yeah. I just want to give you kudos to that first of all, just for that start and how far you come.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Also, one thing I want to mention is like I watched your YouTube channel. I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about, knows what he's doing, and then you sent us that beat, and I was like, holy cow! Like this, he knows what's up. I remember like literally like playing that over and over and over again through the chat where I was like, he knows what he's talking about. You know, it's because like it's so hard with YouTube these days where people are teaching YouTube. They never show their music, and that's something that really inspires me with you on your channel. Like you even showed an entire cook-up of a beat right on your YouTube channel, and that's something that a lot of people like. They want to show you how to make Naki drums, but they don't want to show you their music, and you don't really shy away from that, and I really respect that.
No, I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. I mean, I try to be
so,
authentic.
It's so
That's
true,
the key,
man.
you know. So,
well, I find that makes for a better like coaching style too, because man, like that's what's so great about your channel is like you're on there, and it's not just it's a talking head video giving like 5 beat making tips, and then you just talk the whole time. It's like you get in the dot and you say, guys, like we're gonna make something today, and you show that process fully transparently. You're cooking things up. You show your thought process. It's like, okay, like this isn't really working. Let's try this instead. And it makes like anyone watching it just feel like this is a real guy, and like it's not just a bunch of stuff. Like he is so genuinely authentic. So, man, like that coaching style. I mean, would love to hear your thoughts. Like how did you get into now sharing this and teaching this and kind of finding that authentic voice of putting yourself out there just to help others?
That's a great question. Wow. Man, I love teaching. I've realized that in all capacities. So I'll teach at like my church and stuff for like the youth and stuff. I'll even teach like just outside of music, like business, entrepreneurship, stuff like that. So teaching was always a thing for me. And I didn't realize that until I got older and I started doing YouTube and teaching like music. But I think for me, it was like, okay, let me start just making music in my bedroom. I don't have to tell anybody. Let's just get experience. Let's get in here. And then I think for me, what really like turned it over to like teaching and like that kind of like YouTube, content creation thing was just other producers in the community that were doing it well, like Kyle Beats and Curtis King, like these big producers. And like kind of growing up in that space where I was like, wow, I want to be like that. Like I want to inspire people like that with my music. So I think for me, that's kind of what like sparked the interest from the get-go. So ever since I started, it was like, cool, I'm trying to build myself up so I can start teaching, so I can start providing value at any capacity, right? Because I don't know everything now, right? But I can teach people that are just getting started or have been making music for a couple of years, right? Because I consider that still getting started. But yeah, so that's what I would say to that question.
Man, that's awesome. And it's great because what I love that you said there is like right before, like you always knew you wanted to teach, but right before you got into teaching, you spent a ton of time in your bedroom just at the beginning actually doing the thing. And you used what you had right at the beginning. I know Andrew and I came from the same place where even before we started making our first videos, like we just spent so much time just doing and doing and doing and doing, and then you can teach from that place. And so that probably raises a good question about just how you started. For example, when you were beginning, you said you just used the laptop, $50 keyboard. So what were the challenges that you faced in the beginning, starting with that and just getting into the flow of just doing it, fighting through perfectionism and just figuring it out from the beginning?
Yeah, I think for me, sorry, I had a little Discord pop up, but I think for me, man, it was like not overthinking it, right? Like just don't overthink it. Like just put the work in. So what I teach a lot is the 10-minute beat challenge, which is like, I did not make this up. I learned this from another producer, but I just took it and ran because I was like, yo, this is a great idea. Like you can literally make a beat in 10 minutes. Whatever you have is whatever you have. And once you're done, you're done. You move on to the next thing, right? So it's like that concept for me. I mean, it's what I did as I started. Like I just got in there, made something. It wasn't good, and I moved on. It's almost like what you said, Alex. And honestly, I think both we've discussed this before in the chat. It was like about mixing. It's like you got to keep mixing. You can't get better at just mixing and remixing the same song. You got to do the same thing with beats. You got to make a beat. Once it's done, it's done. You got to move on. And I think that helps you build the skill because it's going to be a different kind of beat. It's going to be something different. You're going to be in a different space. And you're able to stack on top of that instead of trying to make this one beat perfect and come back to it and fix it again and fix it again. It doesn't work like that, So I think for me, once I got that, it was like, dude, just keep making stuff. You got to keep making stuff. So.
Yeah, dude, I 1000% agree with that. Where people, especially producers, have this like tendency to constantly go back to the song they made 5 years ago. It's like, let it go. The whole concept of music is a continuum. It's a fluid thing. You got to keep making. And I totally understand like loving a song so much and always going back to it. But like, you have to understand that your best stuff is ahead of you and it's not behind you. Now, you also mentioned one other thing where you were talking about like different areas. You're working with different people, working out of different areas, working with different equipment and things like that. Like, how does that shape your music production style when you're like collaborating with an artist? Like, does an artist come into the studio or want to work with you and they have a different vision than you have? Like, how does that work for you, and how do you see your creative vision unfold with them?
I think for me, what I really realized when it comes to producing, because I think we're getting into like a producer mindset now, right? Making beats is like you're by yourself. I get that, but now you're bringing in somebody else to the mix, and I think of just personal relationships. I literally think of coaching. I don't think of how well I can, play the piano or how well I can mix an 808 or something like that. That stuff is like neither here nor there. It's like, what is that connection you're going to have with that person? How can you guys get on the same page so that you can really take them to the next level? Because a lot of artists that I work with, whether they're, getting started off or been making music for a while, there's always a gap. It's like, how can I fill in that gap so you can get where I'm at and I can get where you're at, and then we can go together. You know what I mean? So I think that's really what it is, because I have a vision for it and they have a vision for it. But it's like, how can we like mesh those together? I know that kind of sounds like cliche and like, but if you really think about it, that is what it is. Like, all the details are, they'll fall into place. But it's like, if we can get on the same page and the same vision, and you can see where I'm at and you can see where you're at, or I can see where you're at, we're good. So.
Well, man, go for it, Andrew.
I wanted to bounce.
Excited.
I love this. I wanted to bounce off that idea there, where you're talking about, like, I've never heard somebody say that before, but producing is essentially a coaching session. You're coaching an artist through their song idea, and as the producer of the song, it's your job to be the guide for the artist themselves. You don't want to be the hero of the story.
Nope.
They are the hero of that story, and you want to guide them through it. You want to coach them through it. I've never heard somebody use those words specifically, like coaching them through that, but I love that analogy so much.
That is actually so good, and you took the words out of my mouth. Like, it's exactly what you're saying, Isaiah. It's like you, as the producer, find kind of the space where the artist needs filling in, and you fill that in. You come to fill that in, and you have to kind of become like a chameleon or a shapeshifter sometimes to fill in those gaps the way that you do. And sometimes you gotta, as a beat maker, as a producer, like finding their style, cooperating with your style. I know especially when it comes to working with brands and stuff, a lot of companies will look at like they're looking for a specific thing in particular. So like landing beats, for example, like let's say, for example, in some of your creds, like you've worked with Fortune 500 companies. What was that experience like? Like how did you get a beat to the point, or get your music to a point where it was something that they really wanted, or something that you could customly create for them? I'm not sure. We would love to hear how that process was of like landing that collaboration, that experience, and also just of like what was it like, especially for anyone listening that's a beat maker, what was it about your beats in particular, or the beat in those particular instances, that stood out and gave it the caliber to be part of that level of, interest for a big company?
Yeah, dude, great question. That's like, oh man. So like, honestly, dude, like, so I'll cut it to you straight. Like, it was really the position that I found myself in, right? So like, I was literally at the headquarters, ESPN in South Carolina. They have like a headquarters with I can't remember the school, but anyways, it's in South Carolina. They have the ESPN headquarters there. And it was literally like, my friend plugged me in. He was like, yo, meet the director. Like, maybe you could like play him some beats or something like that. I'm like, oh, okay, like we'll see. But anyways, long story short, that, that's kind of how it all kind of started with that. specific placement, but I think the reality was I had to be confident in what I was making. I had to be confident in what I was like producing in order to be able to say, oh, yeah, I'm willing to do that. So I think for me, that was really what it was, because it wasn't like anything specific, like, oh, like, you know, I feel like, I'm ready now.
This
You know what I'm saying?
sample
Yeah.
pack.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I know for me, it's like,
It's not that.
Like, we can talk all day about it, but it's like, I don't believe in all that garbage. Like, oh, you need these things to, oh, I'm missing a sample pack, or I'm missing this plugin. Like, that doesn't matter. Right. So I think for me, it's just like having
that's
that
what people
leverage.
need to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like, you just gotta be in the position, man. And like, honestly, the music I had that I like to make fit that. That's just what I like to make. I like to make the up tempo kind of like, that was just what I like to make. And I was still kind of figuring, I was early in my career, but that's what I would say, man. To just be cut it straight, man. It's just it's the position you put yourself in, and like not like feeling like you need more things to get somewhere. If that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. As far as the confidence, though, I want to really back off of this, because we had a few questions the other night that came in, and someone was asking about confidence, and
yeah.
they were like, "How do I feel confident doing this music thing? Like, where does that come from? Because music is very subjective, and something that you think's amazing might not be something that somebody else thinks is amazing, and." At least for me, if I find confidence comes from other people's perception, I realize that's a problem right off the bat, because music is so subjective. But there is objective things that you can do to ruin a song. You know what I mean? Like, I could just bit crush everything and make it sound like absolute trash, and then like try to release it.
Right.
People are gonna be like, "What is this?" You know? So like, where does confidence come from for you specifically, Isaiah?
I think for me, it's trial and error. I'm a big trial and error guy. I'm like, look, if you're not working in your DAW, you're not putting yourself out there, you can't gain the confidence. Like, it's just not going to happen. You can't sit inside and be like, okay, one day it's going to happen. No, you have to put yourself out there. And I think one thing that I learned from Brandon Bouchard was like, you know, write out your goals, write out your intentions. And like, if you want to be bold today, be bold. Like, do something bold today. And it was like, yo, like don't wait for somebody to come, hey, I want you to do something for me. Say, hey, I would like to do this. I would like to volunteer for this, right? No matter what happens, if you don't get the placement or whatever the situation is, you stuck yourself out there. Like, you're doing it. You know what I mean? So I feel like it starts when you start, right? Like, it's not going to happen. Like, you can have all the skills in the world. I don't know everything when it comes to music production, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Man,
Yeah.
yes, like, let's go. And that's the thing. Like, you told that story a few minutes ago. You're like, look, it was the beginning of my career, and I just happened to be at the ESPN headquarters, and I was able to hook that up somehow. It's like, man, it's like, it's just doing it. It's kind of just saying, screw it. Like, I'm going to try, you know, and just getting in the DAW. I know for me, like, let's compare like mixing to beat making, for example. You make a whole ton of beats. Like, you've made hundreds and hundreds of beats, and I've mixed a lot of songs, and it's the same thing. It's like, how do you get confidence? It's trial and error. And Andrew, you said something the other day about the stack of proof, right? What was that? Like, baptizing.
Dude.
Yeah, it's not my quote, but I believe the quote goes something like, you don't gain confidence by shouting affirmations in the mirror. You gain confidence by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say that you are. If you want confidence, you need to have proof that you've done the thing that you're trying to do. Now, this is great advice for people who have done this, right? Now, the problem is when you're beginning and you want to get the confidence to take the first step. I would say if you're listening this far in this episode, we're like, what, almost 18, 20 minutes in right now. If you're listening this far in this episode right now, and I'm talking specifically to the listener, and you haven't taken action on anything, you are already an action taker just by listening this far into this episode.
Yep.
I mean, Isaiah's over here spitting gems, straight gems. And the fact that you're taking action this far, dude, I mean, we got to be honest, man. The attention span right now is just so small. So if you're already this far in this episode, you have the confidence to take the next step. You don't need to see the entire roadway. Do you guys ever remember playing Need for Speed on the GameCube, and you could literally see only like 3 car lengths in front of you? You know what I mean? You didn't know where the road was going, but you knew where your next turn was, and that's all that mattered.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
how I define.
Wow, bro,
that's how I see
fire.
that.
Honestly, I would say too, like, To kind of tag along what Andrew's saying, like, think about it. Like, you sitting through this podcast right now, that's a win, right? Another way, honestly, I think what really like broke the doors open, or like, you know, the breakthrough really happened was when I started buying courses and getting involved in mentorship. Like I said, dude, I need to lock in to somebody that knows what they're doing and learn from them instead of trying to figure it all out by myself and, oh, I got it. Like, just plug in, like plug into the resources. I mean, honestly, we all have channels. Like, we all have businesses to help provide value for the whole producer community. That's what it's for. And when you don't take advantage of those things, you're like, oh, it's a scam, or, oh, yeah, you know, I don't want to spend the money, but you go spend money on shoes, right? It's like, that's where you're losing. I'm not going to lie. If you're a beginner, that's where you're losing. That's what I would say. And honestly, it's the easiest way to win. Like, somebody's already done it. Like, Alex has sent me his course, and I literally, the first like 10 minutes, I was blown away. I said, oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, this mixing course is crazy, because the insight, it's insight, right? And it's like, I think I talked about it in my masterclass. It's like, courses aren't designed to solve all your problems. They're just not built for that. They're built for you to learn. You go to school and you take a whole curriculum, you take multiple classes so you can learn what you need to learn. So it's the same concept. So anyways, that's what I would say as well. Like, if you're a beginner, get plugged in. Like, don't sit and wait around and like just dream about stuff and like watch our podcast only. Take action, like get involved. Like, there's people that want to pour into you, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say too.
Brother, that's what's up, because like, this podcast is an example of a resource designed, like this is here to help move people forward. And if you're, like we said, if you're listening to this point, you're one of those people that are going to soak the juice out of it. And like, there are resources here where we can drastically speed those results up for you. Like, I'm really grateful what you said about the vocal mixing course, for example, Isaiah. But this is one of the reasons we also wanted to bring you on, is because we know that you've developed a magic formula that works for you for beat making. And we have literally talked about this with you so much, but we're hoping that today we can just suck a little bit of extra juice out of you and see if you're willing to pull back the curtains on a little bit of this beatmaker formula, and kind of fill us in about what are the key elements of this formula that you believe are crucial to the success of beat making.
Yeah, man. So it's funny because I talked about it a little bit just before about confidence, right? So mental mindset, I think, is the most important thing. I could talk about that for hours, because none of it matters if you're not ready, right? If you're not in the good headspace, you could have all the equipment, you could have all the money, you could have all the resources, whatever. If you don't have your head on straight, and that's kind of like, you know, I'm just paraphrasing, but if you don't have your head on straight, it's over. Game over. Just forget it, right? Because you have to know what you want to do. Yeah, it's life. Like, it's life, right?
I love that.
So I like to pull it together into like life. It just is what it is. Like, if you don't have a direction, if you don't know where you want to go with your music, you're just gonna be running in circles. And I think there's a time and place for all that. There's a time and place to explore and all that stuff. But eventually you have to get focused. So that's like the first thing. Like, the first element in the course is that. Like, getting your focus, understanding what tools you need to get the job done. Like, if I want to do sync licensing, I might need different resources than a guy that's wanting to sell beats on BeatStars. It's not going to be like completely different, but think about the difference of tools and assets they need, resources they need to get the job done, right? So that's your module one right there. That's a little bonus. But I mean, I think getting into like the beats and stuff, like the next piece is like the tools. Like, you got to have the right tools. And honestly, the key to having the right tools is not knowing just what to get, but knowing not to get. Because people are buying stuff and they think it's going to solve their problem.
Ooh, that's really good.
They're like, oh, I need this plugin. I need this plugin.
Say that again, dude.
So it's not about what. So it's the second module is not knowing what to get, just what to get, but what not to get. Like, think about that. Like, people are buying plugins and they don't even know how to use them. They just throwing them on there. They got a compressor and all these other crazy plugins. They don't know what they're doing. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't stack on top of those things. I think for me, to be quite candid with you guys, I'm growing in that. Like, the plugins you guys are using to mix, I'm like, yo, I could utilize that. Like, my ears are trained for that now, right? So it's like that same concept. Like, there's so many things that are already free, like your DAW plugins, for crying out loud, or like free plugins that you should be using to practice instead of spending your money on that. Right, so spend the money on the ultimate beat. I mean, the Pro Beatmaker Formula course, and don't spend it on a plugin so you can learn how to make beats, right? So it's like that concept, right? But yeah, so that's like module 2 right there, bro.
Dude, that is straight fire, bro. As far as like the thing you said about like what not to get is just it's so crucial, because when you know what not to set your focus on, you can like, because the thing is, and I believe I can't remember who said it, but nevertheless, they said that focus isn't about what you focus on, it's about saying no to everything else. And so you have to understand that, like, if you fill your computer with all of these plugins, all of these VSTs and virtual instruments, and you get option paralysis, you have no idea where to go from there. And also another thing is, like, people will, and I did this, yeah. You will fill your computer with so many free plugins that every time you go to reach for a compressor, you're like, I forgot I had this one. What does it do? And then you start going down this rabbit hole that just isn't very helpful. And I will say, there is so many good resources online, and you can watch so many YouTube videos, and you can do all of this stuff. You can like read these blogs. But I feel like when you invest your time, you're half invested. When you invest your money, you're half invested. But when you invest your time and your money, you all of a sudden say no to everything else. You say no to the videos that might be on your watch later playlist, and you are now invested in this course, which is why I absolutely love the Beatmaker formula, the whole thing. And like, dude, right off the bat, you gave away like, dude, straight fire from the beginning of that.
We didn't even get into
like
making beats
mindset.
yet.
Like you can do this if you get in here. Yeah, yeah, just straight gems. You are setting the tone for the rest of the program, which I absolutely love.
It's so crucial always to do the kind of the mindset thing first. And before man, I know we can all talk about that a ton, but I want to tie one thing in before I forget into just the plugin talk, because I totally agree with you guys. I made a video about this on my channel the other day, but it was literally like, but before you buy new plugins, make sure you learn the ones you have. Every time you've learned the ones you have and you've exhausted their purposes, then you're allowed to go up to the next level. And that's why, like you see the lots of the pros at the top. Like if you watch any of the mixing with the masters stuff or anything like that, you see a lot of paid plugins. And and in my videos and in all our videos, there are going to be paid plugins that pop up. But it's because we've mastered the stock plugins, and now we know we can get more out of the next plugin. But if you haven't figured out and spent the time really and you kind of naturally just reach for the next thing, and then you get some jobs working on music, and then you're upgrading, and then and naturally like you build up your stock of plugins that way. But you have to get to know the stock plugins first, and then once you know them, okay, try out a paid plugin, try out another one. And it snowballs. But you can't jump all the way from not knowing anything to jumping all the way to the end and buying the paid plugin and expect the results that you're seeing from those mixers, because those mixers could get an awesome mix with the stock plugins, the same way that a awesome beat maker could create, like you, for example, could create a great beat with like one small folder of samples. Like you could figure it out and make some absolute fire just with your skills, your knowledge of percussion patterns, your knowledge of like interesting melodies, your knowledge of how layers interact with each other and what gets best results, versus a brand new beginner having the entirety of the splice library to work with. You will still get the better results because you've developed those things. So it's not about the tools. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, man, that's definitely
Isaiah. When you when you go to buy another plugin, do you run through any questions in your mind before you like make the decision on another plugin, or are you just like reaching to a point where you're like, this sounds amazing, I just want to grab it and go for it and don't think anything of it?
So honestly, I've reached to a point where I literally have a list of things I'm going to knock out and get, right? Because it's like, okay, I want that. Like this is not the first time of me hearing this, like actually being used in a way that I could utilize it, right? So it's like, write that down. I need that, right? So that's kind of how I do it. Like I'll write down the list and then I'll knock it out. Like honestly, it's kind of like subconsciously. It's like, oh, I need that, because it's like it's already written down, right? So I write stuff down at this point. But honestly, I'll be real. Like for those that are new, I'm telling you, you don't need them. Like we just said it, but I'm telling you, I've been doing this for like almost 7 years. You just don't need all this stuff. Like you're gonna know when you need it. Like I promise you, you were like, yo, I need this. This is gonna help me with because I'm gonna start working with an artist next week, and I'm thinking of a specific plugin I need right now, and that's how I'm doing it. It's like, okay, I need this, I need that, and that's how I would do it. I mean, I know it's kind of sounds like like you're kind of like limiting yourself, but I don't know. I disagree with that. It's like take your time. Like the resources are right at your fingertips already as it is. Don't keep buying more stuff. So
That's been my experience too, man. It's like if I would literally be doing mixing jobs, and I wouldn't buy the plugin or get to know it until I actually like needed it. Like for a long time, I was just tuning vocals using Melodyne, for example. But eventually along came the song where an artist really wanted that auto-tune sound. And I didn't bite on spending the money on auto-tune because I could do something really similar in Melodyne by just flatlining the pitch tool. Yep. But I finally didn't have a choice, and it was like, okay, now I've graduated into a new genre, and given like this was some time ago, and it was like, okay, I'm going to have to get a really auto-tune sound for this one. Now I'm going to get it, But it was only when I really needed it that I got it, and then I was forced to figure it out, and then I had it as another tool in my set going forward. But I didn't just buy everything off the bat and then just have it there and be like, bleh, I'm good now, like it's you grow as you go. And I think that's one thing is like we're always changing as producers, we're growing as producers, and also the entirety of the music production environment right now, like we are in a time where things are evolving so quickly. And I'm curious about your course. Like, how do you set up the beat makers in your course to be ready for all the changes coming? Like, obviously, like confidence is a big thing with this. With all the changes coming, we're having so many new plugins and VST instruments thrown at us all day long. And you talk about that in your other module, what to get, what not to get. What are some other ways that the formula is helping everybody, stay grounded and move forward productively in such a crazy, fast-paced world?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny because when you get into the next module, which is like the last module, but like the main module, like the main course, whatever, like we're cooking up beats, we're mixing, and we're doing all that good stuff, arranging. When you get to that section, it's really talking about your sound selection. Like, look, you only need like a handful of sounds to pick from, maybe like 15 packs. Like, honestly, I feel like it's a little bit too much, maybe 10, right? But like, it's like narrowing down. Because, like, you could just be so overwhelmed with, this and this. I actually have a client that I'm coaching, and she's like, well, I'm trying to get into, like, doing some mastering stuff. I'm like, wait, hold on. Let's backtrack that real quick. Why are we even looking at the mastering chain right now? Like, we need to be making beats. Like, so it's like, I think for me, like, that's what the course is about. It's like simplifying it, not making it where it's just like surfacey and like, I'm not learning anything, but it's like simplifying the process because there's too many genres, there's too many like, you have so many different backgrounds of where they want to take their music. But if you focus on these components, like we talk about the loop, we call it the loop, which is like making a seamless, endless loop of a mixture of drums, melodies together, like basically just a loop, like something that just repeats over and over again. And once you get that, like, this sounds good. I have my hi-hats in here. I have my drums in here. I have melodies. It sounds really good. It's like an 8-bar loop. Once you get that, let's move on to arrangement, right? Don't go on trying to arrange something and your beat's not good, right? So it's like having everything that sounds good together and then like kind of like carving it out after. So that's kind of one of the concepts I talk about. But yeah, that's what I'd say. It's like just keeping it really simple. And I'm all about that. I'm not super technical. I'm not like, okay, you need to have this and do every 2 steps with this. Like, no. Like, that's just, you got the wrong guy. I'll be real with you, right? But it's like keeping it really simple and really trusting your gut. Like, you got to get better at that because that's how you get the most humanistic sounds, like the swing. And you can't like program that. You know what I mean? So stuff like that. That's kind of just a little bit about that of kind of like what I would say to that question. So.
Simplicity is key, man. Simplicity is absolute key there. Where I think it was Blaise Pascal, the French philosopher. He said, "I would have written a shorter letter, but I did not have the time." Which is like making something simple takes time to really understand it takes time, man. Like I used to I used to do a lot of EDM stuff. I still do some EDM stuff to this day, but like I spent like 2 years of my like entire music career where I did nothing but EDM, and I was just trying to find artists that would want to do EDM with me. And I remember like some of those old sessions, they sounded really bad because I was trying to blend. Like I saw this YouTube video where they're like, just blend multiple kick drums together, but I didn't know what I was doing to blend multiple kick drums together. So I had messes all over the place in my sessions. It was an absolute disaster. I had like 7 different kicks I was trying to blend together, where I was like, I'm going to get the low end from this one, I'm going to get the clickiness from this one, I'm going to get like, instead of just taking the time, to pick one pack, like you're saying, man, like 10 packs, 15 packs, pick good samples and then just move on. Don't try to make things more complicated than it takes. That's all it is.
That's what's so awesome about like a formula is you take sorry, I'll throw it back to you, Isaiah. But you take all these crazy options and you pack it into a formula like what you've got.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it's funny. I was doing some coaching 1-on-1, and another concept of like the concept you were talking about, Andrew, about like layering your kicks and stuff. And it was funny because like it hit different for me when she said it. She was like, "Oh, should I layer these together? Should I do this?" I'm like, "Hold on. It's not should you do something. It's what do you want to get from this? What are you hearing?" I think so much now is like we're in this world where people are telling you do this. And I mean, look, we're all guilty. We all surf, we do tutorials, all kinds of stuff. But you can get in that space where like, okay, Andrew does this and Alex does this, and then Isage is doing this. Like, oh, and it's like, what do you want to get from it? Like, are you really listening to the sound, or are you just trying to do what everyone else is doing to try to get this pristine mix or whatever it is? It's like, just listen to what you're actually doing, and you'll get a better result. Like you'll see where you need to do certain things, and that takes time. Like, don't catch me wrong, like ear training takes time, but at the same time, it's like if you're really actively doing that instead of looking at the screen, you're gonna win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, I 1000% agree with you on that one. I think there's something there that like really just needs to be highlighted, where you're saying like, what's the goal you're gonna get from this? One of the best pieces of advice my mentor ever told me when I was mixing, and I just have continued to follow this advice for forever now. He's like, do not load another plugin until you know why you're loading that plugin. Yes, like, what is the goal? Like, it is such a simple, it's
That's
such a
so fire.
simple concept. But sometimes we just like, it's like, I love my 1176 or I love my distressor. I'm gonna throw it on there because I want to throw it on there. It's like, why?
Dude, I find myself like automatically putting things on. It's like when you're in flow state, like working on a song, and you're in the zone, and that's a good thing because you're working well. But sometimes your brain just stops working, and I'm just automatically like soothe, and I'm like, wait, did I hear something that needs soothe? I gotta step back, and then I remember like sometimes you gotta just keep it simple. And so like in the name of keeping it simple and this amazing discussion, boiling things down to a formula, like Isaiah, from everything you know about beat making and everything you know that's out there trying to distract people, like what can you boil down into like just a couple things of just like a couple things of solid advice for aspiring music producers who are just starting out and are so overwhelmed by everything? Like, what would be a couple of those things directly for beat makers, for example?
Yeah, block out the noise. You gotta block out the noise in all capacities. That's plugins, that's people you're listening to, that's sounds, right? Like, you gotta block it out, and it's very challenging when you're first getting started. Because just like, oh, who do I like the most? But like, find that person. Like, maybe I suggest like 1 or 2 people, maybe 3 people that you want to listen to and like really get mentorship like from, basically. That would be the biggest thing. Like, get that focus and just put the work in. Like, literally, you gotta put the reps in. It's like going to the gym. You cannot get stronger if you're trying to cut weight. You're trying to gain muscles. You just can't do it like just looking at stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I've been guilty because I'm trying to learn the piano, like to play really, really well. And my biggest thing is actually playing the piano. I watch stuff all the time, but I'm not playing, right? So it's like, you gotta get in there, put the work in, but then just block the noise out because you can get distracted. So that's what I would say. Like, that's like the main things I would do. You'd be on a roll, promise you.
Man, I love that. Blocking out the noise is absolutely key. Like we were saying earlier, not to sound like a broken record, but like deleting everything else, like ignoring everything else, saying no to everything else, and just having like laser focus. So as far as that goes, like what is your laser focus right now? Like looking forward to like what you have next. Are there any upcoming projects, collaborations, anything that's like going on with you and the Isage Beast brand that you are excited to share? Or don't want to share, man, but like want to tease out just a little bit.
I might tease out a little bit. So I'm working with an artist right now. I've actually had to. I'm taking my own advice, like that I just spit out here. Like I had to pull back. I literally moved my studio back to the house to save some cash and to kind of take myself out of that position of having multiple artists in my studio. I was like, dude, I can't do this anymore. It's too much. I can't do working in the studio engineering and also making beats and getting on YouTube and doing courses. I can't do all that. Right? I couldn't even do stuff like this if I'm working with artists, right? So I had to pull back on that. So what I'm doing now is I'm working with like literally 2 artists. That's it. Like that's it. 2 artists right now, and we're working.
Keeping it simple.
Keeping it simple, but my main focus is content, man. Like pushing content. You guys already know this. We're in the chat every day because we got to get to it. But I'm pushing out content. I'm actually working on another course on sampling. Okay, you're gonna love this. Like sampling is my thing. Like that's how I started. But I'll kind of tease that out a little bit. It's gonna be fire. I'm trying to tell you. So that'll be dropping hopefully by the end of this month. I'm gonna text the boys here, and they're gonna challenge me to get it done. So you know what I mean. So yeah, it'll be.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever sampled? What's the weirdest thing you've ever sampled? Just a random question.
Check this out. I sampled a song from Call of Duty Black Ops #1, The Zombies, and I sampled it. It was so fire. I'm about to pull that up and tell it to you guys. It was I recorded it on my phone. I was like, yo, this is a cool sound. It was like on the load screen for Black Ops Zombies. That. I'm like, yo, this is hard. Like, so I filled it with my phone, and I just cooked up a beat with it. It was crazy.
Oh man, we got to hear that when that's ready, and hopefully you'll post that somewhere where everyone can hear that.
Yeah, dude, as soon as you get that posted, like let us know, and we'll put it in the description of this video.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're that guy or that girl that waited this long in this episode, you are gonna get some absolute fire beats to listen to.
You're getting the bonus beats.
The entire podcast.
Oh, totally agree. And with that in mind and the description, Isaiah, where can people find you? Where is the best place to find your stuff? Some of the things we talked about. What are your links?
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube at Isage Beats. That's ISAGE Beats. Okay, you can find me on YouTube. You can also find me on my website, isagebeats.com. Okay, and I have an absolutely free guide. It's called the Ultimate Beatmaker Toolkit. It's literally got the essentials, the stuff you need, like equipment, sound packs, plugin suggestions, everything that I personally have used. So it's absolutely free to get you started, and that can be like your foundation right there for you to start making beats. Like you can just build that out, like from there, pull that PDF, and just download everything. Most of the stuff is free. So, yeah.
That's amazing, man. That's great. Honestly, it's been such a pleasure having you. It really has.
Yeah, no,
it has been.
This has been great.
Dude, thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast. Dude, I know your time is extremely valuable, and I appreciate you taking some of that time here to be a part of this podcast. Now, at the end of every single one of these podcasts, we like to ask our guests 3 main questions. We call them the Truth Triangle questions.
The Truth Triangle, which is based on, we made a logo which consists of an A and it's shaped like a triangle. So we thought, let's tie this into the 3 points of the triangle. So we have 3 truths that we want to ask you. If all of your content about beat making and producing, if all of it disappeared, if everything, and of course we hope it doesn't, but in the example that everything disappears, all the future, the future courses you create, the future books you write, it disappears and is unavailable to future generations and aspiring music producers, future generations of family, friends, anyone in the music scene that you could potentially help. And all you could leave behind on planet Earth are 3 truths related to the following: music, success, and life. We'd like to ask you what each personal truth would be. So it'll be just like you can give us just like a personal truth statement about this thing. That is all you can leave behind on it on the planet. So I hope that was clear enough. And let's start with music. On the first point of the triangle, what is one personal truth that you have about music?
Oh man, I don't want to say something cliche, but I'm about to. Honestly, dude, I'm about to, because I want you to, and I'll explain if I have to, but just be you, like truly be the authentic you. Like when it comes to music, I think it's very personal though, so I might answer both of them. But just speaking with music, just be you. Like you gotta be you. That is like the main thing. Like none of this stuff matters. Like how to do stuff and how to do that and all these plugins and stuff. That stuff comes and goes, but you stay forever, right? Like it's your music. It comes from you. So that's what I would say.
I love that. All right, one personal truth about success.
Be you. No, I'm just kidding. All right, but
Blanket statement.
I'm kidding. I'm done. All right, see you guys. All right, thanks for
But
joining
no,
me.
it's a good one.
Mic drop. Leave.
Mic drop, and then leaves the call.
That would be hilarious. But anyways,
That's so funny, bro.
When it
That's
comes
so
to
funny.
success, when it comes to success, here's what I would say. Success is a moving target, so always stay in the present. Success is a moving target, so always stay in the present. Like we're always trying to get to the next thing, and I've been guilty.
Wow.
I'm definitely guilty. Like, oh, I'm trying to get this, but it's like be here, right? Because it's always it just keeps moving. Like you get to that point, like then it just moves up, right? And that's healthy if you treat it that way.
Oh,
but if you're
man.
always trying to get to the next thing, you're never present. So that's what I would say.
That's
That's
just
so
golden,
true.
man.
Falling in love with the process.
The process.
And
Yep.
that probably ties nicely into just life in general. So what is the final personal truth that you would have to say just about living life?
It's not that serious. That's what I would say. Life is not that serious.
I love that.
That's
I mean-
great.
I mean,
That's
seriously,
probably the
guys.
best answer possible.
Like seriously, like don't be like, oh, he's just saying. Like guys, I get it. There's serious things in life. There's things we need to take care of. But at the end of the day, nothing is ever that serious. Like it's all good. It'll be worked out. Like that's how. I'm adopting that. That's something I've been like. I mean, I didn't grow up like this, right? Like I was in like coming right out of high school, and it was like I jumped right into like just college, like a 2-year college, living on my own, and everything was like, oh, I gotta get this done. And I realized as I got older, it's like, dude, it's all good, bro. Like just hang out. Like it'll take care of itself. I promise you. You know. So that's what I would say.
Man, it's a serious question, and in a way, if you really think about it, not that it's all not so serious is actually a very serious answer, because if you can take not taking it seriously seriously,
Man, you're good.
and I really hope the universe does not explode right now as I say this, because it's incompatible. Imagine our call just goes poof because like this can't exist.
This is too much.
Like
too
the
much,
call
too much.
short, the website short circuits. Yeah, but if we could
my
take
gosh.
not taking things seriously, man, the world might be that much of a better place, and it certainly is a much better place. The world, the music scene, and definitely the lives of Andrew and myself, because we have you in it. So Isaiah, man, thank you
Appreciate that,
again for joining us today.
Yeah, dude, I really
Absolutely.
appreciate your
This
time
was
here.
great.
The world is definitely
This
a
was
much
awesome.
better place. Yeah. This has been amazing. The world is definitely a much better place, especially now that we spent the last hour hanging out with you, man. It's been a blast.
Appreciate
So
that,
I
man.
appreciate your
No,
time.
I appreciate it. Absolutely. Anytime. This is awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on, and for everyone that's listening, we are so grateful that we have you here, that you made it to the end. We hope that you were able to get value out of this podcast. I really think you will, because I know I got a whole ton out of what Isaiah had to say. If you enjoyed this, a couple quick things is don't forget to subscribe to the channel, or if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, follow or save the podcast. And if you did enjoy it, something like a review would be really helpful in helping this grow. So
Yes.
And what else? Word of mouth, share with your friends.
This is awesome.
If you
podcast,
found this,
guys.
All the
if,
above.
if you found this
Tap in.
podcast valuable, share it. So yeah,
Share it. Please
Tap
do,
in.
guys. Like
We'll-
this
we'll
is
see
a
you
great,
guys next
great,
time.
great podcast.
thanks, man. All right, hey, for everybody listening, have a fantastic day and just make some great music and don't take life too seriously.
We'll see you in the next one.